Welcome to lesson 21 of the Arabic course. Now we've gone through most of the major aspects of Arabic grammar. We still need two important things. Still have two important things to look at, and they both are connected with verbs and are fairly extensive. The first of these aspects is the so-called verbal stems, and those are the subject of both exercise 19 and exercise 20. And verbal stems, well, the Arabic verb can manipulate the root and thus get different meanings out of the root. Okay, so that in English, for instance, you might use different verbs to get different meanings, but sometimes you can get the same. Or often, you get the same meaning out of a root. I mean, you can get very different meanings out of the same root in Arabic by manipulating the root in certain definite ways, and that's sort of the bottom line of the verbal stems in Arabic. Now, there are 15 verbal stems in Arabic. We've seen so far just one of them, the sort of the regular or default verbal stem, the first stem. These 15 stems are, well, they're used. They're not all used. They're not all very common. Only 9 of them are common. The first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and 10th. So verbal stem number 9 and 11 through 15 are hardly used ever. So we don't have to look at those at all. Okay. Now, what do these different verbal stems do? Well, they change the meaning somewhat. Some of them are, for instance, indicate some type of causative meaning. So, for instance, to the verb labisa, in the first stem, it means to put on clothes, but in the fourth stem, it means to make someone put on clothes, meaning to dress someone. Okay, so that's the causative meaning. Meaning you cause an action to happen. So a couple of the stems have that meaning. Some of the stems also have a reflexive meaning. Reflexive means that the action is not so much directed towards an object as it's directed towards yourself. For instance, you can wash someone. That's a general transitive verb, but you can also wash yourself, and that is the reflexive use of the verb, to do something to yourself. Now, the way to work with these conjunctions, or rather with these verbal stems, is that you look at the verb, then you determine which stem it is, and then you look at the dictionary, because the dictionary will give you the exact meaning of each stem. So even though the fourth stem and the second stem often will be causative, it's not always so. So in each case, until you get to know a certain verb, you'll have to look it up in the dictionary anyways. So it's important to be able to distinguish these stems, so you can see, okay, so this must be this stem, and then I can see in the dictionary that this verbal stem, has this type of meaning. Let's look at some examples in the text. Exercise 19, sentence 1. غلب اللصوص على المدينة وأهلكوا كل ما فيها. The thieves, lususu, that's a broken plural, incidentally. Lususu, the thieves, conquered the city. Ala al-Madinati, the city. Ghalaba is a regular perfect in the first stem, as you've seen many times. غلبة, regular first stem, third masculine singular. Again, we would expect a plural or something since the thieves are plural, but maybe remember that the verb, if it's in front of the subject, does not have to be in congruence with the verb. So the thieves conquered the city, وَأَهْلَكُوا كُلَّ مَا فِيهَا, and they destroyed all what was in it, in other words. They destroyed, وَأَهْلَكُوا is a so-called, is the fourth verbal stem. وَأَهْلَكُوا, note that you see the root there, ha, lam, kaf, halaka, and there's an alif and hamza added. Ahlaku. The added hamza and alif is the sign of the fourth form in the perfect, and the fourth form is generally causative. In other words, as I've said, to cause an action to happen. So, if a verb halaka means to perish or die, which it means in the first form, then it should mean to make to perish, make to die, or destroy, in other words, in the fourth form, which it does. So they destroyed, they made to perish all which was in it. Kullama fiha. We can look at the second sentence in exercise 19. Sallama ra'su al-hisnu ila al-muhasirina. Okay. So the first form, the first word, sallama, is looks as a regular perfect, except that there's a shadda over the middle root consonant. The lam is the middle root consonant. Sallama, it's long, and that lengthening is in fact the best marker of or the best way to see that a given verb, is in the second stem. The second stem, which is sometimes causative. Sallama means to, it can either mean to greet from salam, meaning, the salam alaikum, peace, or the greeting. So the verb in the second stem can mean to greet, but it can also mean to hand over. In this case, ra'sul hizni, sorry, I'm reading it wrong. Ar-ra'isu. Ar-ra'isu. Of course, it's the chief. He handed over al-hisna, the castle, ila al-muhasirina, to the conqueror, to the besiegers. Al-muhasirina, incidentally, is a participle in the third verbal stem. The third verbal stem is characterized by a long a after the first root consonant, just as the participle actually in the first form, but you can generally tell them apart by for instance, in this case, il-muhasirina, most of the other verbal stems have a mu when you have a participle. Mu is a good sign of the participle. Muhasirina, participle, third stem. Let's go on and look at the third sentence. Yulbisu kulla nasi awladahum thiyaban jadidan ala al-idain al-kabidain. So the interesting thing here is the yulbisu. That's the imperfect. Yulbisu, you recognize the root lam be sin, labisa, to dress, to put on. Yulbisu then is the imperfect. You see, recognize the prefix here indicating imperfect. Yulbisu is then the imperfect in the fourth form. You can see that by the combination of vowels. U-I, yulbis is a very good indication of the fourth form. The fourth form, which is very common. And so labisa means to dress, or rather to put on clothes. And so in the fourth form, it means to dress someone else, put clothes on someone else, cause someone to dress. And well, that's how it works for first for the second, third, and fourth forms. And that's it for this lesson. Please finish exercise 19 before going on to the next lesson. Thank you.